Welcome to the American Podcast. This is Kevin Deveci, your host. Today's number is $1.85 trillion worldwide spending on digital transformation in 2022, and it's expected to be $3.9 billion in 2027. So we're going to be talking about digital transformation today. It's an important matter for pretty much all the organizations, I must say, institutions and corporations, and we have an expert for it. So let's invite our guest today, and let's talk about digital transformation and some other subjects. Derek, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm really pleased to be on the call with you.
Thank you very much for joining. So how are things going in UK?
Yeah, really good. The weather's a bit mixed this today, so a little bit calmer today in weather, but really good. Thank you. Yeah.
That's great. I hope you're also having a great week.
No, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
All right. Well, so as we are getting ready for the weekend, so we like to have this, conversation about digital transformation, about as well as other conversations, other subjects as well. But let's start with introductions, if that's okay. As a start, just to introduce, just for our audience to know you, would you please introduce yourself and your organization to our listeners as well as to our audience, please?
Yeah, sure, absolutely, Kevin. So I'm Derek Kilroe. So I'm an ex-Royal Air Force biomedical engineer, and I founded an AI startup in the UK called Ask Ellie, and we produce what we call semi-autonomous applications, which is using very much cutting-edge AI technology for automation. Yeah.
Great. Well, how did you start your career?
I mean, I always wanted to be an engineer, and I got a scholarship in the Air Force and studied electrical engineering. And I was in the Air Force for 12 years, as eventually becoming a biomedical engineer. And when I came out of the Air Force, I had two young children, and couldn't really make ends meet as a biomedical engineer. So then ended up getting a job in software, and I've been there ever since, Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah, time flies, right?
Yeah.
Well, can you tell us about your work a little bit more? What are the challenging parts and exciting parts that you experience on daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, it's very challenging. As a startup founder, I think the whole thing that I learned, I was very much in the corporate world beforehand. So I think the lesson that really suffered is, managing working capital. I think that's been the really hard part of building a startup. That and dealing with VCs, by the way, yeah, that can be quite challenging too. But there's some great aspects to it as well. I love the people. I love the technology. I love applying the technology to build new and exciting projects. But yeah, I'd say the biggest challenge for me is, trying to manage working capital, with very little investment in the early days. That's quite hard.
So let's talk about enterprise software industry a little bit, if that's okay. So you have decades of experience in the field, and I like to understand your viewpoint. How is the state of enterprise software industry in general, as well as the importance of digital transformation for organizations? If you can share your insights a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Kevin, and I think obviously it's got a very long answer. I think I've been selling software for nearly 30 years, and within the ERP industry, which was pretty fundamental to me, I think. And you kind of see then the impact of a monolithic ERP, and then the battle against best in breed, those types of things I've seen go on over the last 15 years. And then really we've seen the AI revolution. And I think that if you think about how businesses first started off, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, they were very much built around, departments and processes and people. And I think, the new generation will be built around inputs and outcomes. So we'll kind of lose that silo effect as, digital transformation takes hold. I think it'll break down the barriers of silos, which in my opinion were never a great idea when we first started this journey 60, 70 years ago. But yeah, I think that's the thing that we'll see the trends moving towards a breakdown of the silos and more automation across the entire infrastructure. Yeah.
One of your expertise areas is actually digital contract management and digitization in that sense. Can you tell us a little bit more about contract management based on your observation and experience in the marketplace? What type of challenges businesses are having and how they can take care of
Yeah.
these challenges, address those challenges accordingly?
Yeah, I think contracts is something again that we got involved in very early on, and I think if you look at a business, I mean, fundamentally, a business is built on contracts. I would say 60% of their spend is generally contractually based with suppliers. The other 40% coming from HR contracts, strangely enough. And I think all of their income is probably based on some type of contractual obligation. I think that the problem historically, they've always been very difficult things to manage. Creating contracts is very time consuming, very much like playing tennis. The ball's going backwards and forwards between negotiators. So it really sucks up a lot of energy and time out of a business. And again, with sales contracts, I've been in sales for a long time, and they've always been difficult. Being able to get a sales order has been very complicated. So I think it's been something that's very mundane, very difficult. In some respects, adds no value. I think you have to do these things, but it doesn't really add much value to your day in some respects. And I think really we got to the point now where there's that much going on with compliance and issues that the contracts now are coming to the fore again. Where people are saying, okay, well, we need to document everything. We need to make sure that the supply chains are in tune with the customer deliveries and that type of thing. So I think it's bubbled up to a point where they've have to now look at some type of automation in there. And really that's what we focused on, how to make things much easier to do, much more automated, and really take away that mundane tasks from so many people in an organization that have to not only create contracts, but track them and ensure that we perform well on them. So for me, it's a really big topic, but it's one that we kind of just shove in the desk and ignore until there's a problem. But I think society is not letting us do that anymore. Yeah, does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and yeah, I believe that's spot on in terms of the contract management analysis. So on one hand, it doesn't add on too much on your day-to-day operations, but at the same time, the contract itself actually dictates the terms of commercial relationship with any supplier or a customer. So to your point, it's absolutely mission critical as well, but at the same time, it's pretty challenging. So I think that's a great point in that sense. Um, I like to learn about your viewpoint on AI. So your company works with AI, develops AI-based technology uh, and software to be more precise. What is your viewpoint about AI, how it is impacting and how it will continue impacting businesses moving forward? And one more question. I know it's a little packed, but uh, do you think AI will replace jobs?
Okay, that's a really good question, Kevin, and it's one that everybody debates, and I'll give you my honest answer to it.
Okay.
People may not like it. It is my opinion, but I'll certainly try to answer that one. I think in terms of the impact, I think it's going to be huge. I think as I said to you, that historically systems were built around departments and processes and people, and that's going to fundamentally change with AI. It's going to be built really around those inputs and outcomes. So I think that's a massive change for a business. I think you're in the realms of, looking at businesses that could have a much reduced workforce against a competitor. So an example I give that, if a insurance company deployed AI, they could probably run the operation, with a much reduced workforce, which gives a huge competitive advantage to them. And I think that's where that pressure is going to come from for everybody to get into it. So I think it's going to have a massive impact. I think in the future, maybe not my time, but in some time in the future, businesses will operate completely different. I think you'll see a disappear of those departments that we've grown up with for many years. Will people lose jobs? Yeah, absolutely. I think people will lose jobs. I think the administration jobs will start to fade away. We've seen AI now being used to automate accounting and legal work. So it's still not quite there. As I said, I don't think anybody of my age should worry about it because I don't think it's coming anytime soon. But I think the new generation need to consider really what jobs they go after. Because I do think that AI will carry out most of the administrative mundane tasks in an organization. I know a lot of people, I think AI gets a bad name, but I think some of the things that AI does, it can manage multiple sets of data, and that's very hard to do for humans. When you're trying to look and analyze data, especially across an entire transaction, it's very difficult to do. So I think it's got some benefits, but I think we have to accept that it will cause a loss of jobs. But we've just got to re-engineer ourselves and reinvent ourselves and say, okay, well, what does the future look like with AI, and what kind of jobs will that bring? I mean, certainly one I can think of, compliance has gone through the roof. So the more AI we use, the more people will need to be in compliance and making sure that those systems are not being tampered with or become fraudulent or biased in any way. So I think we'll get a reduction in some jobs, but we'll get an increase in other jobs that bring about that change in AI, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, just to support your point, last week I was at a conference. I was with SAP conference. I spent almost all week there in Orlando to learn about the SAP's roadmap, how they are doing, and AI was the number one subject. SAP is the largest enterprise software company in the world, so that's an important, subject matter what they are focusing on. Also, being an enterprise software professional myself, I wanted to also educate myself and stay on top of it. So the most of the conversations, actually, most of them were about AI and AI agents. And the truth of the fact is, the matter of fact is, there is an AI agent for pretty much all the departments. Like every single department has an agent now. So to your point, it's not as mature as to replace somebody yet, but right now it's an assistant mode mostly, but it's learning quick, very quick. So for those AI agents to come to a place to replace humans, it's not so far. I don't think we are talking about 5 to 10 years, even sooner, if you ask me. That's what I saw. So but also to your point, that's also, I think that's very interesting that you mentioned it. That's actually an opportunity for us to actually re-engineer our processes, maybe our lives in general. So re-engineering is a great word. I loved it. So some of our audience may know, actually I was announcing on LinkedIn, so I'm starting a new podcast with one of my friends, and it's two guys, all things tech. So we talk about the AI. That was our first subject on our first podcast, and I was mentioning the same thing. That's an opportunity for us to change and improve our lives. And you just mentioned engineering. It's amazing. I think that's a great opportunity um, for all of us to adjust to change and re-engineer things for all
Yeah.
the businesses.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. I mean, I think we've got to look at it in a very positive way. We've just launched a system today aimed at disability, and that will have a radical impact on how content is created for disabled people, and that's a very positive experience. And even though it won't take away jobs, because they cannot afford to produce content for disabled people. So for them, they would never hire 10 people to do the job. I think what the AI's brought them is the ability to make more content available for the disabled community without increasing cost. So I think we've got to. I really believe we've got to re-engineer ourselves and think about what life will be like with AI, and it'll work out okay, because we can't get rid of everybody, because nobody will be around to buy anything. So I think we'll just shift our perspective of it, and also hopefully get a better quality of life. I think people are very much talking about that now. I hate doing administration, by the way. So for me, any AI that replaces administration, I'm very much in favor of. So yeah, it's going to be a change, and we've got to embrace it and move forward. Yeah.
I like to talk about a little about role models. You have decades of experience, and in your career journey, have you had any role models that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, that again, Kevin. And I think I'm not a person that kind of idolizes role models in some respect. I kind of just get on with it and do things. But I think in my career, I think there's some people, stand out massively. I think from the Royal Air Force, my sponsor in the Royal Air Force was a phenomenal person. He was a big role model of mine, and he really, took me through the journey of the Air Force. And I think, I hold a record. I was in the Royal Air Force for 12 years. I never spent one day on an operational unit. Yeah. So I think he was there to guide me and really, shape out my career path. I studied everything under the sun in engineering because he kept, putting me on different courses and so on and so forth. So I think, he was very important to me. I think in software, an amazing guy called Graham Kingsmill, who I worked for Parametric Technology. He was my first boss, and he was such a calm person, amazing, manager and director, incredible. He was a big influence. Another guy called Steve Winder, who was a great boss. And of course, Joe Rayfield, I think he was a great boss too. So they were the ones that really that became role models for me. But I can assure everybody on this call, I met some people that were not so nice along that journey. Yeah, but those three guys stand out in my career that have helped me, guide me to be a better person. Yeah.
Well, the lessons learned in your career journey, decades of experience and things that you learn. Are there any lessons learned that you can share with us?
Oh, Kevin, I think we need another hour, I think, to talk about the lessons. I think the key one, I guess, is I've always been a bit of a rebel, I guess, and I think my engineering background gives me that brain that always challenges things and things like that. So I think don't fight City Hall is probably the one big lesson that has not only cost me throughout my career, but I finally learned not to fight City Hall. And I mean, by challenging thing, and it's hard to do that because I'm an innovative person by my nature, and that tends to be people who'll say, no, let's not do it like this, let's do it like this. And yeah, so maybe sometimes when I should have just maybe said nothing and let them walk off the edge of the cliff. I think that's a lesson that I've learned. But there's lots of other lessons I've learned. As I said, the impact of working capital. I'll be honest with you, I never really understood it until I left the corporate world, where I had my nice expense account and everything else, and coming into a startup environment where, I think that's the most important thing is working capital. If you cannot manage that, you're in trouble. So that was a big learning curve for me too. Yeah.
Can you tell us about your interests and passions outside of work?
Oh yeah, so I guess interests are very. I was listening to one of your podcasts, I think yesterday, and somebody mentioned sailing. So yeah, I sail a boat. I'm actually down on the coast at the moment in Poole, which is a beautiful place on the south coast in England. So sailing is obviously very much of interest to me. I play a little bit of golf, but it's become too time consuming these days for a startup founder. And I'm a massive soccer fan, so I'm a big Liverpool supporter. So I've just been up for the weekend where they had the parade with the Championship Cup there. So yeah, and then obviously I spend as much time with the kids. I've got four kids, which obviously takes a lot of time up, working between them. So yeah, that's kind of takes up all my time. And
Yeah, that's amazing.
being a startup founder, you don't have much spare time, Kevin. Yeah.
Yes, I can imagine that. Work life, they just become together in a way. Even if you don't work,
Yeah.
you think about work. That's
Yeah.
that's inevitable, and it's still working in a way. It just just your mind is working. You think about it, so that also takes the time and effort in
Yeah.
that sense.
Absolutely.
So it makes sense, absolutely. Um, well, so one of the actual most important mission of our podcast, the American Business Podcast, for the next generation is to share educational content, informative content with the next generation as well as today's generation, of course. So, do you have any career advice for those who likes to get into enterprise software? What they should be doing, how they can prepare themselves? Any insights that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think again, I didn't mention it on the learnings that I've had in my career, but I think for new people coming into the industry, you've got to have enthusiasm for whatever you're doing. Whatever topic you pick, whether it's ERP or whether it's security software or compliance software, whatever it is, you've got to want to understand and really embrace that topic. So I think that's the most important thing I would do. From a monetary perspective, I think I would advise people to look at what the trends are in enterprise software, where the growth areas are. I mean, clearly AI has just gone ballistic. So anybody getting a job in a decent AI company, should be able to find a lot of business. Try to spot the ones that are declining. I would, give those a wide berth. I mean, as the whole thing of evolution curves, which I studied extensively. Some of the great companies out there are coming to the end of their evolution curve, like RPA. I always get a hard time when I say this, but RPA is very much coming to the end of its journey, and it's been reinvented by other automation methods. So I kind of avoid industries that are in the decline, because they tend to be quite tense. I mean, you can still make good money with them and still have a good career, but it tends to be quite tense. Whereas, on a rising technology like AI, it's much more of a buzz, much more exciting, a little bit more risky, I suppose, in some respects. Because AI companies fail too. They're not outside of that issue. But I think maybe look at what's emerging. And I think this is a really good tip. I think for the young people, I talk to is try to predict where things will go to, and then that'll give them some idea then of where they want to be heading to, if not in the short term, but in the longer term as well. So I think that's why it's so important that we start to think what life would be like when AI takes a hold, really, and what will be the new jobs out there, when that happens. But I think enthusiasm, if you don't have that, go and do something you love, stay out of the industry, just go and do something you love. Yeah. It's not for everybody. Yeah.
Yes. These are good points. Interestingly, you just mentioned about trends, like trying to see the trends and so on. Many years ago, when I was going to college, I was reading all these PC magazines, right? Computer magazines. I was all over them. So one of the articles that I read that was very interesting. That was actually published, taken from Microsoft back in the time. So we are talking about mid 1990s, and then one of their prediction was one day people will be working from home. They're gonna only go out for food, and most of the work will be done from home, and even the design of homes, the architecture will change. So, so nowadays I'm thinking about that article that I read many years ago. Now we are looking at our lives. I was like, they were right.
Yes.
It was amazing. So,
Yeah.
like, I mean, no one knew it was gonna be true in reality. But then, just trying to see things like, how it will be. It may be at least. I think that's really spot on.
Yeah, no, the trend analysis is really important. It's what we did, 5 years ago. I think when we launched Ellie 3 years ago, people thought we were insane, and it was only really the big boom of OpenAI that really got people thinking about the
Mhm.
potential. But I studied a technique called TRIZ, the theory of inventive problem solving, the Russian methodology by Dr. Valery Sorokov and a guy called Dr. Sergei Yakovenko. And that taught me how to analyze and predict evolution curves. So it's something that I would encourage a lot of people to get involved with. Maybe read some of the papers around there. It'll certainly give you a view to try to predict what's going to happen next in an evolution. So yeah, that's really where I got it from, and I've become obsessed with it ever since, really.
That's really exciting. Thank you for these insights. Absolutely, evolution curve. All right, sounds good. Well, of course, 30 minutes is not enough to have entire conversation. But any of our listeners or audience, if they like to continue this conversation, what is the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I'm happy if you want to post my email address on the chat, Kevin. Or I can give anybody my number. They can contact me on WhatsApp. We use WhatsApp a lot in the UK. But by all means, yeah, give me a call if they agree with the things I say or don't agree. We can discuss them. Anything they'd like a little bit more information on. I'd love to chat to people about the topic. I find it fascinating.
Absolutely. Well, Derek, thank you so much for being with us in your busy schedule. And thank you for sharing your insights. Also, the Sage conference is coming, so we're going to be there next week. So
Yeah,
we also, yeah,
absolutely. I'm
yes,
gonna get out there and Yeah, so we do a lot of stuff with Sage, so that would be a great session there. Yeah. So I'll
Yes.
see you there.
So, yeah, looking forward to seeing you. And it's going to be a great conference, very informative, and it's a great opportunity for connection. And I'm also looking forward to seeing you there in person.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Kevin. Great. Thanks very much for the invite.
Of course. Have a nice flight, and I wish you a great weekend.
Yeah, cheers. Take care. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye now. Thank you. Well, to our audience and to our listeners, thank you very much for being with us. We had another informative session today. We talk about enterprise software. We also talk about some other subjects such as contract management, AI, and evolution curve, right? So things are changing. How it will be changed is hard to predict. So now we know at least what to do. Evolution curve. Let's search for it and let's find out more about it, and we can all utilize it. So I think that's a great tip. Another subject that we focused on today was the AI and AI's impact on the business and on businesses in general. So AI is here to stay, and highly likely it looks like it's going to replace jobs, but at the same time it'll change the life that we are living in, the markets that we are in. So that's also an opportunity for us to redesign our lives or re-engineering, as Derek mentioned earlier. So that this is also an opportunity when we look at it from a positive point of view. Well, so we are very happy today. So we just passed 30,000 YouTube subscribers. So we truly appreciate your support. Thank you very much. If you haven't done so, please go to our YouTube channel, American Business Podcast, ABP, and please subscribe, like, share your thoughts and comments. We truly appreciate your support. It means a lot to us. And every week we stream live and we share educational content. We invite subject matter experts and we have these informative conversations just like today. So we are very motivated. We truly appreciate your support. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe on YouTube. Would you like to be a guest in our business podcast? Do you know someone who likes to be a guest in our podcast? Please send us an email, americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from you. Would you like to share your feedback? Do you have an idea or a subject matter you like us to cover on our podcast? You can also send us an email. We keep an open mind. You send us emails. We reply as quick as possible. We are happy to hear from you. Our email address is americanbusinesspodcast@gmail.com. Also, if you visit our website, americanpodcast.tv, you can also see our coming schedule that is posted every week. Who is coming, what we will be talking about, the subject matter, and as well as the timeline. You can see it on our website, americanpodcast.tv. Well, remember, this month is the end of season 1 of American Business Podcast. Season 2 is starting in July. We are very excited with this rapid speed that we have in our podcast. With your help and support, we are almost done with the season 1 in May, and in June we are starting season 2. So we are very motivated. We're gonna keep bringing you subject matter experts, and we'll make sure that you learn at least 1 or 2 points in our informative business podcast. We also have a sponsor, IPVanish VPN. You can visit their website. I'm sharing the link on the screen. You can visit their website. I use IPVanish VPN. This is solid. If you are looking for VPN, you can choose IPVanish. Working well, and you can visit their website with the link that I share with you, and you can get more information. And if you're interested, you can subscribe. Well, while we are coming to the end of season 1 for the American Business Podcast, we are excited for the season 2. It is starting in June, and we're gonna keep bringing you new subjects for you to learn, and new subject matter experts that we can all learn from. So we are very excited and looking forward to season 2. Thank you so much for being with us, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at our coming business podcast. Thank you very much.